Good. You know that sometimes I'm just like I don't add smiley faces and all that. I'm all good with you. Don't. It is no problem asking. Some days I'm like, I just can't do that right now. I just can't. Like after that first year.
Okay.
I know. So, but do you feel all right about fantasy? I promise.
Yeah. No. When you said for the first year,
just not gonna get it.
Okay, it's 11:59. We're getting ready to start. Find your
I got it.
answer.
We've got a plan for
All right, it's 12 o'clock.
There you go.
It's 12 o'clock. Well, greetings to all of our fifth grade teachers. We have fifth grade teachers here in the room with us at the PDC. And we've got fifth grade teachers out all across the district meeting in expanded PLCs with the partner school. So we are so happy you're here. What a great opportunity for all fifth grade teachers in the entire Springdale School District to get to learn together at the very same time. It's a great opportunity, and I'm so excited that we're doing this today. We have with us some folks who are in the room who have spent hours and hours and hours getting ready for this opportunity for us. I'm not going to turn the cameras on them because they like to be in the background working really hard, and that is Meredith Cox and Linda Odell and Megan Rojo. You'll get to see them a little bit, but they like to work really hard back in the background. And I have to tell you, since this is our 6th session this week, we have the best tech guys in the entire world. So they're hiding behind a sign over here, but we give them some applause too. They are absolutely marvelous. So it's an exciting learning event. You will get to experience the model. We will get to learn with each other, and we want your feedback from this whole experience at the end of the event, and we'll let you know that. But I'm not going to take any more time because you really want to hear from the world's best staff developer. I promise. She's the best on the whole planet. She's the instructional facilitator at Sonora Middle School, and her name is Charlene Horner.
Like Dr. Merlich said, my name is Charlene Horner, and I am an instructional facilitator currently at Sonora Middle. I want you to know that I have over 16 years of experience of some type of workshop teaching, whether that's reading or writing. I have 10 years teaching kindergarten and 5 years of first or second grade experience. I just happen to be in the middle school setting right now. This kind of turned into the new arrivals needed some help learning to read when they're 10 or 11 and 12 years old. So that's how I kind of got in the middle school setting. So please know that while I'm in the middle school right now, but elementary is really what my background is. I have worked with schools to implement this program, and I've also worked with schools in the refinement process. I have been formally trained by the Teachers College of the Reading Writing Institute in New York with Lucy. I have been formally trained to work with schools to implement and coach teachers. So with all that said, I do know a little bit about workshop teaching, but I know very little about professional development live stream. This is my 6th time doing the live stream. I haven't tripped on anything. I have stumbled on words, but everybody's been really nice, so I'm hoping that y'all will continue that with me today, and please be patient because this is a new learning curve for me, just like y'all are probably in the same position of just this is kind of a new learning experience for you. So with all that said, I know that most of you know that we needed some materials to be successful today, and if you don't have these things, maybe at your sites, an instructional facilitator or a person that can maybe be a runner to go get these tools. You'll need these tools to be successful. This PD is set up probably very different than you've ever had professional development delivered to you. I set it up as demonstration teaching, very much like the lessons that you're about ready to teach in May. Most of your lessons are set up as demonstration teaching. Like Like today, I'm going to teach you something, and then you're going to have a long block of time to actually try that. And so you'll see in your lessons that you're about ready to teach, you're going to teach kids how to do something and then give them a long block to actually try that. So we're going to do that today. That's why we need these tools to be successful, and so you can achieve the goals that have been set today. Our goals, when we were creating these goals a couple of months ago, we kind of stepped back and just said, I know these teachers have, let me go back, a backstory. In January, all of your principals and all IFs were in this room, and they unwrapped a unit of one of the reading units of study. And I walked through that with them, and I explained the, what the essentials of good reading instruction are, and we talked about how the workshop model is set up and how that fits in a balanced literacy approach and how that can work in schools across a district this size. They then rolled out that to you throughout the next few months because I needed you to be where you are right now, that you have some understanding of the research, what the research says that readers need, and you have some understanding of how the workshop model goes on every single day, K7 or K8. So to be able to achieve these goals today, I needed you to kind of have that baseline across the district. So we're now at this spot where it's about ready to the time where we are going to teach a unit in May. And so today one of the goals will be that to prepare you to be able to teach a unit in May. So the teaching today, the professional development, the things that you will do are going to set you up to be able to teach a unit in May. We've also provided, and the goal today is to discuss some whole school systems that promote engagement and independence. Those are two key words in this, promoting independence and engagement. So we've the TOSAs have worked hours building a toolbox for you to dip into as needed. I didn't have a toolbox during this process. I would have loved to have a toolbox. And where I am in this journey, I'm like, that toolbox is awesome, and I will be using that toolbox. So it's quite a gift, and it may not feel like a gift quite yet, but you will definitely realize what a gift it is that you can dip into when you are looking to support your kids and build engagement and create that independence. So those are your goals today. If we do nothing else, I'm hoping that you leave here today that you can say, yes, I feel prepared to teach a unit, and I have some things in my toolbox that I can do this work, not perfectly at all, but I have some things in place that I can actually do this and feel empowered to try it. Okay? So those are our goals today. I'm learning, when you do professional development, not live stream, you just say, what are your questions? Just answer, ask me your questions. But live stream, we have something called a chat box. So if you're out in the listening, the buildings that are broadcasting or watching this, you might ask one person to be the person who can chat in your questions that you might be having. And what will happen then is Megan Rojo will write down the question, bring me the sticky note. I will make an instructional decision with what I have planned. If I can answer that question artfully, I will tuck it into my instruction throughout, and it'll just kind of seem seamless. Or if I run out of time, I'll answer your questions in isolation at the end. Or if we clearly just run out of time because it's Friday and we're ready to go and enjoy the weekend, then I will send a personal email, and I'm pretty good about following up. So as your questions arise, which I fully anticipate, lots of questions. I'd be a little concerned if there weren't questions, so I encourage you to do that because we're all learning on each other, leaning on each other. If you have a question, there's certainly someone else that has that same question. So send those in, and that's how you get to the chat box. Then the last part is, before we start, I have a Google Classroom setup. This was created in January when your principals and administrators were in this building and they were learning, and this was new learning for them. And we created a Google Classroom for them to see pictures of book rooms, maybe in New York City or maybe within our own district, and seeing how schools are setting up classroom libraries, documents that maybe the correlation charts, and just some tools that maybe our library media specialists would probably like. So it's just kind of an area to hold all of this information. And now it's time for you to be able to join. I don't see you looking at this Google Classroom daily, but I do see you thinking to yourself, I have a question. I could probably look into the classroom and search by what I'm looking for, and it's probably going to be there. And if it's not there, then we need to create it and get it there for you. So for about a minute or two, I'm going to encourage you to get into the Google Classroom, and once maybe the minute or so is up, I'll be ready to start up, and we will become learners in this journey together. All right? Can y'all get in okay? Can you get in? How are you? Oh, good. Oh, good. You got in, okay. Oh, good. You get in. How are you? So I'm glad you came in. I was worried I didn't see you. I know. All right, writers and readers, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to call a group to the carpet. Please know that no disrespect if I happen to call you kids or students. That's just what comes naturally off. I know that you're professional adults, so please excuse if I do. But what is happening here, this is a mock classroom that you that some of you will get to be a part of, and then out here you get to be able to look into this classroom. So you get to peek in, they get to feel how it feels to be within a classroom. So that's how this is why it's set up like this today in here. I'm going to call a group to the carpet, and this will be our first lesson, our first Reader's Workshop lesson today, to work towards meeting our goals. When I call you to the carpet, I'll need you to bring 3 tools, and one of the tools will be your Unit 1 for Grade 5. Your second tool that you will need is a writing tool, and that will be that could be a pencil or a pen or a crayon or a highlighter, whatever seems to work for you as a nonfiction reader. And then the third tool that I'll need you to bring is either something to like a piece of paper. It can be a sticky note or a pad of paper or just something that you might want to jot a note or two on. So those are the 3 tools you'll need. When I call this group to the carpet, they're going to bring those tools. You'll get to be able to see them bring those tools. And you out here will get to do the same work, and out in our broadcast sites, you'll get to do the same work, but you'll have the also to be able to look in and watch them be able to do this work. So, writers and readers, I would love to have Sonora and Turnbow join me on the carpet. right. You ready? I've set my timer for 10 minutes. If I have about one more minute, if y'all wouldn't mind just kind of letting me know. I'm working on, where I am in this journey, you would think I wouldn't need a timer still, but I still do. And it just kind of keeps me in check for no other reason that it keeps me focused and knowing that I don't want to take any bit of your time to actually learn, because it's not so much about what I say, it's about what you get to do out there. That's where the learning happens. So I've set my set my timer to be able to try to teach this lesson in 10 minutes, and I may get really close, and if I get it on time, then I'm going to be really happy with myself. So anyway, so writers and readers, I'm so glad you came to the carpet so fast and fluent, and you brought your tools, and you are ready to be learners today. I have to tell you this story. It happened a few years ago. We were implementing, I think it was maybe Writer's Workshop at the time, and you can picture all the new kits were coming. They were being delivered, and they were on the dollies, and they were rolling down the hall. And most of my teachers, and me for sure, we were just following the little dolly like following a mother duck, and we just couldn't wait. So they finally, we unlocked my door, got in my room, and we didn't even really label the books or any of it. We just started unwrapping, and wrappers were all over the place. Can you hear that crinkle? Can you hear it? It was that cellophane. It was everywhere. We were opening the books. We were trying to find Unit 1. And you know what? I knew something. I knew that we probably shouldn't just start teaching lesson 1, but I just said, you know what, just take that book home and let's just learn what lesson 1 is, and tomorrow we're going to teach it. I knew that we shouldn't, but we went ahead and we taught lesson 1, and then the next day we taught lesson 2, and you know what, that didn't quite work out. We weren't clear on what this unit was going to be about besides the title itself. We didn't know anything besides interpretation book clubs. We didn't know what next day's teaching was going to be. We didn't know what the end goal was. We had no idea what the arc of the lesson was. We didn't have not a clue. While I knew Lucy had told me and many others across this world that you should read the orientation to the unit, I went ahead and just jumped in. I'm letting you know that probably is not the best idea, and I'm hoping that today I can show you a protocol that seems to have worked with my teachers, so we are clear on what this unit is actually going to teach our kids. What is this unit? What are we going to ask our kids to actually do in this lesson? The orientation to the unit does that. Today I want to show you, and I want to teach you a way to do this. It's called the jigsaw orientation. If you've watched any of the orientation videos that are on the TC website, you'll see that Lucy and her team do a jigsaw orientation, and it may be exactly similar, it may be the exact protocol, but we have made it work for us, so we've tweaked it along the way, and actually we've refined our practice along the way. Basically how it works is someone in the room within, it says PLC here, but we typically do this maybe on an in-service day, and we do this because like at the beginning of the year, if it's an in-service day, we unpack the unit. Then we teach the unit, and a few weeks or month go by, and it just seemed the past few years it's been natural to have like an in-service day. It fell right then. So then we were able to, as a team, reflect on the past unit and unpack the next unit. Then some weeks and days went by while we were teaching that unit, and then another in-service day came along, and we were able to reflect on the past unit and then unpack the next unit. And so it's worked out nicely like that. So we usually do it on an in-service day. Someone in the room assigns the parts to the orientation. Each person reads their assigned part in 7 minutes. Then each PLC member reports back what they've learned in about 4 minutes. And then we end it with this whole class conversation. And where we, all the while, we're clarifying and constructing a coherent overview. There's no research that says 4 minutes is what gets you proficiency here. We've made that work in the amount of time that we have for our particular PLCs, and I would think that you would probably want to do the same, is be responsive to your teams and what your structures are in your building. So today, you're going to have a small shot at that here on the carpet, and out there you're going to have a small shot, maybe just a little try at this. And how you're going to do this is everybody is going to read this first page. It's the orientation to the unit. You'll have about 2 minutes to read this. So what you're hearing from me is you're just reading for a gist. And your purpose for reading is you're going to teach your friends or tell your friends one thing that maybe you have a new understanding about, or something that has made you question something, or maybe something that's clarified something for you. Just this first page in 2 minutes. And you can certainly highlight, write, whatever works for you as a nonfiction reader. You may begin. About 30 more seconds. And you may stop. So that was pretty fast, and I clearly know that is a lot of reading to do within 2 minutes. Please know that Lucy's phrases are repeated throughout her units, all throughout the grades. So many times when this gets to be more familiar, you'll be able to scoop up those familiar phrases and read those pretty fast, and then read on to the new information. So things will get faster for you. I would love for you to, I don't have a protocol in place for you to turn to a partner, but I feel sure that you probably know how to turn to a partner and just kind of respectfully listen to them, and then maybe add on to what they're saying, or say, I have a new understanding, and just kind of respectfully have a share and teaching each other, or telling each other, or asking a question of your partner. We'll do that for about 2 minutes. You may turn to your partner now. You good? right, writers and readers, I gave you a little taste of what we're about ready to do. All the while I was informally assessing and just kind of listening in to our conversations and trying to gauging where we are in this process. Oh, I just need maybe 15 seconds, all right? You're about ready to do this work. When I release you to do this work, someone in your group will skim the learning progressions on these pages. Someone in your group will look at the Bend 1 overview and the anchor charts. Someone will do this, and someone will do this. And if you have 5 people, then someone can do this. If not, then everybody in this group will try to get to this part. While you're doing this, you're reading, knowing that you're going to teach your team or the people at your table about what you have learned, all right? So you'll have 7 minutes to read, and you certainly can use whatever strategy that works for you as far as jotting or just reading and highlighting, whatever seems to work for you. What we're working to do is construct an overview of this unit, just a nice overview that we can have a little understanding of what we're going to ask our kids to do, what is some teaching that I'm going to do, what are some tools they're going to use, what are some of the books they're going to read. All right, so 5th graders, I'm going to say 3 magic words, and when I say those magic words, you're going to walk back to your seats quietly, and you are going to get out your tools, and you're going to begin to be a reader for 7 minutes. Off you go. Oh, yes. Absolutely. There you go.
They kind of put stuff together.
Everyone have a book?
It's not in the back. It's in the order.
Get you another one. Get you another one. This one's mine. Okay, thank you. I didn't want to lean over you, sorry.
Oh, that's no problem.
Thanks. About 1 more minute. Okay, 30 more seconds to finish your last sentence or phrase. All right, writers and readers, what you have done is you have, each PLC member has read their assigned part. We're now going to share with your team and report back to your team the part that you read. I'm going to push you to try not to construct meaning by asking questions along the way, because we'll save that for this part here. So what this will kind of look like is each PLC member will, Carrie will teach, and then the next person for 4 minutes, or tell her partners or report. Then the next person will do, and then the next person will do. And all the while you're constructing some meaning, but you're saving those conversations for this part right here. And then that way everybody gets their shot and we can finish the orientation without having deep conversations in between. All right, so if you're listening in to us, I would suggest that you turn off your sound for about 20 minutes because what we will be doing here is we will be reporting to our members of our team or who are sitting at our table about what they've read, and I'm sure that you'll be doing the same. So I'll set my timer for 20. And if you just turn down your sound, that way you can still see what we're doing, and maybe we jump back up and you know that we're up and running, but you're not distracted by the sounds that are happening here, and then that way you're able to be a nonfiction reader or listener at this point. So with that said, I would love for us to just go ahead and begin starting and either be a listener or a reporter. All right.
Talks again about what's in the ordinance. We're going to review one thing in sixth grade that also the shift between fourth and fifth grade and the profession. Not really confused with what it is. But not all things student in sixth grade, but they're as far as
It goes back to making sure that we're using different, like fix-it-up strategies, different strategies that they've had to do in the past that will help them support their instructional use of. They get into a lot of our standards that we're used to teaching, that we're going to be comfortable teaching, such as determining themes, chapters fit together, why do authors choose to say things certain ways, like authors craft, techniques, flashbacks, metaphors, all of that, just how it fits together. And you should go in knowing that reading is more complex in fifth grade, and just have that expectation that it will with ideas, with back your ideas up with evidence when you're writing. And this is also the point where you introduce the students to the learning progression at the time. And that's been
Determine the craft of the author's vision and strength oriented. She says again, students should expect complexity from the start, and that it's important for students to know that opening of a text may not make sense to them right away, but instead of discarding the text, it's too hard, they need to keep going with it. Because student choice is students.
With voice and spirit and body, the readers are looking at a lot more mechanical and writing readers. And to encourage like a shift away from that to where when the students learning to reading, they're writing with everything voice. Setting up the year and kind of encouraging programs to set up that reader's notebook.
And really teaching them what they writing about their purpose and meaning behind it. It's not just very general. They have a lot that needs the voice to help them with their own writing as well. You want to also teach them to have those big ideas as well as concrete details and figurative language whenever they're writing about their reading. And also during this time, you work on procedures with them.
They're committing to their readers' notebooks. Talked about how they need to start seeing their writing is when they're reading just as important as their writing during writers' workshops. That a lot of times that their writer's notebook is full of voice and spirit, and then their writing about their reading is very formula-based and not very exciting. And so just kind of making that connection.
This is going to help us explain how those services are different. There's friendship.
Where they dig deeper into meaning, where they reference two separate texts and compare and contrast the themes of the two, and then they incorporate author's craft, exactly what did the author do that created and established this theme, which is is there a nuanced difference between the two, and how did the author's craft exactly create
In their fixing strategies and know how to use those strategies in the visualization as well.
I think you covered all the bends. Why do students rotate to
Writing in your reading with your reading notebooks, and so your reading notebooks are not need to be dull and boring. It's like a method, you know, like write our writing journals or so, and have voice and all this stuff. And then when we get to reading, it's like the character did this, you know, and it's real, just like played it right.
It also goes in as another assessment for reading logs, and so there's so many different types of reading logs out there. This one will kind of show, have more data.
Yeah, they come in. Let me,
I have been to, and it's supposed to be
I'm gonna borrow this and I'll be right back. They had. They come on these sticky notes, so you can, you know, create one, like set it up like this, and then unveil as needed, or you can just add as. So, elementary tend to like to add as. Us with multiple classes, it just unveil like. Here's the next one. I roll my anchor chart up. Some people just cover it with like a poster and then just unveil it. Yeah. But yes, they come. Everything is. Yeah. There's nothing that's not. Yeah. Does that help? Yes. These don't sit. They don't stick great. I've had to add tape. Just letting you know. Okay.
what slows you down, what's slowing you down, and kind of assess that, because having those kids read volume is important. So how can you help them with that volume? I picked up on part of the assessment too. My partnership with the kids. I talked about how kids should be grateful to advance the It's so important that analysis before to talk to them about that. I like the part where she said how a writer writes is an important part of being a close interpretive reader. So I think we're just looking at that. It's just that simple different types of writing. Comparing it, if we can see how the craft imitates the process of being.
I was going to say, you can totally. Well, like one groups that are new, they're just reading it and they're like, they don't have any other discussion to do. I mean, we're like, oh, I missed that part when I taught that.
I have a hard time jumping from the let's just teach than to not discuss, because I'm like,
Yeah, but the other ones are like, we're done. I was like, oh, well, you might have read that, but there's going to be a line.
Every time I read, this is the book that I'm like, every single time.
I know. And I know I read those same words last time, but it didn't.
Yes.
It's the weirdest thing.
Yes, and then I'm reading the writing one right now,
Uh-huh.
and I'm like, I think I remember, and then I come back to the
Yeah.
writing, and it's like a whole new camp.
I'm excited to do them
It's
together.
really cool to be able to do that. It is, yes.
As a reader, we've never looked at
I'm gonna go off. When y'all do the. Y'all know that you're gonna sit on a. I need you to say that. Okay. 'Cause I've got friends over here that are in 6 that are unsure that it's gonna be rigorous enough, and I'm like.
Oh my gosh.
I have no words. So you might just, okay? Yeah. Or, just find some way, because I'm like.
I promise.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes I'm wishing I understand.
Myself, I'm like, I've never read a book that deep, ever.
And like fantasy, we're doing fantasy right now. I don't even understand.
You will love that next year. Once you've taught that one time, that has been like, my teachers love the fantasy unit, but that first,
Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna say that. I don't want like that. They're real dragon.
I know.
I mean, and then with all of it, just how she's like the bigger person.
Exactly.
the issue. And
Suspend judgment. I love that one. Yes. About 1 more minute. All right, 30 seconds to finish your thought or phrase. All right, writers and readers, we're going to get back and get started. What you have done right now, you've participated in a mini lesson where I taught you how our school and how schools across this country and world have learned how to unpack a new reading units of study. You have had a long block of time to read and process. We're now going to finish up with a share. How this share is structured is I'm going to use a whole class conversation to promote the sharing and learning from each other. But by no means does every share need to look like this. This is just one way that you can do that in your classrooms. And how it looks is, in mine, like at the beginning of the year when we are not, we don't have the stamina to talk long about a topic, I usually start my timer for about 5 minutes. I start something that I start the conversation with, something I'm learning or something I'm pondering on now based on my reading. And then somebody will chime in. Hopefully someone in here will have a thought that they want to add on to what they're thinking on mine. Or they may say, Charlene, that was a great thought and great statement, but I want to say something different than yours, and that's perfectly fine. We have to teach kids to talk, and to teach kids to talk, we also have to provide the time to talk. This is a fantastic way to do this. Talking long about a topic, when you're reading long about a topic, we should be talking long about a topic instead of what color is the dress, what color are the shoes. I mean, this is what color is the dress is red. Oh, I had a new understanding because the author said this. I mean, that's how this conversation, it builds on each other's ideas. Okay? So we're going to try it, and what we're doing here is we are working to clarify and construct an overview of this unit by doing a whole class conversation. So it might get kind of weird in here, and it does in classrooms all the time, where it just like, what I'm modeling is we're going to talk, and it's going to go. That timer's there, and we can sit or we can talk. So I'm promoting talking long. So it might get odd, but we're going to sit until someone can add on. But by the end of the year, we've created monsters because 5 minutes is not enough, and we have so much. But talk. If you can talk long about a topic, guess what? You can write long about a topic, and then we're working towards that literary essay that we need to be writing and be able to write fluently and be able to talk and write descriptively and long about just one text. But we have to practice that at this level and start getting that work going this early in the game. And I think all of y'all, I don't have to sell y'all on that for sure. So let's start this. All right. Okay, so in the mini lesson, you saw me stand and deliver. You were here. I was standing up. I was delivering some information to you. If we were in my room, I would be sitting in the carpet, sitting in my chair, and I would still be delivering information because you're sitting on the carpet. I'm here. But in a whole class conversation, I'm sitting in the chair because I'm with you. I'm learning with you. I'm going to try to help you not put your eyes on me like affirmation. I'm saying something. Do you like what I say? I'm going to try to work towards that we're talking across each other. So we're going to try it. But my point being is I sit. And in my room, I sit on the floor in a big circle, and we just have a good quality conversation, building that community. And we don't have that community set up right now, but I feel like we're going to try. Okay, so let's just start. My timer's. Let me start the 5 because we're going to push ourselves to talk long on a topic. Okay, not 3 minutes. We're going to do it for 5. All right, let's see. My reading made me realize that progressions not only tell me where a student, where their student work, what their student work looks like and how they look across a progression, but actually I'm learning as I read that progressions lift the level and accelerate the learning. Let's say that again. I read that the other day. Progressions lift the level and accelerate the learning. So not only are they just telling me where a student is, but it accelerates a student's learning. Okay.
It could also be that they know where that end is, so they're able to see that. It could be also that they know where that end is, so they're able to see that from the beginning and they're able to work towards that.
Mm-hmm.
I also see how this is beneficial for not only your on level and your some of your below level readers, but I'm just thinking in terms of your above level readers, as it gives them somewhere to go still. It's not just increasing my BAS level. Mm-hmm. It gives them a specific, this is how I can improve how I respond to my reading. This is how I can improve my thinking. This is how I can move myself as a reader, and that's going to help your students on all levels. So it gives the teacher that more specific where to go, but it empowers the students as well.
Nice.
It also gives them more of a visual to see, like, well, mine does not have this. So if I want to move to this, then I have to include this specific piece. So it gives them a visual to compare theirs to what it should look like.
Something I know teachers have questioned along the way throughout this week. All the units, every unit, K, 8, unit 1, 2, 3, 4, will have a read aloud. Does the read aloud happen during the workshop time or outside of the workshop time? Okay, so in a simple answer is it happens outside of the workshop time. In a balanced literacy approach, you have a reader's workshop and you also have a read aloud time. You'll notice in the pacing guide that she'll say, Home of the Brave needs, chapter 1 needs to be read before you read, or before you teach lesson 2. So that tells you, if it's Tuesday that you're going to teach lesson 2, then you need to have read chapter 1 either Monday afternoon before they got on the bus, or before that lesson. Okay? She might also say, you'll reference page 16 of Home of the Brave during the reader's workshop. So her chart is very clear, before and what needs to happen during. Okay?
I think it's important to use the read aloud because I thought I could veer off of and use my own fantasy book. And so then whenever you get to chapter 3 or, lesson 3, and you need to refer to that page, then I have to actually study more to see what point she's going to point out in the chapter and then find it in my book. So if you go along with her read alouds, it's a lot easier.
Right.
I was just going to say, too, that the importance, like you said, of having the separate time, because if we're trying to stay in that 10 minutes mini lesson frame, you're not going to be able to do that if you do the read aloud then, and then you've kind of lost your kids.
Lost your
So,
kids. That's right. We completed a whole class conversation. Good. It got weird, and that's okay, but we were talking long about a topic. It teaches us that one and done, one answer is not enough. I need to grow my ideas, and you're very important in what you have to say, and I want to hear what you say, and I want to hear what you say. So we're growing ideas. It's a fantastic way to get kids talking and providing time for that talk. We talk a lot about making reading social. Many times reading has been read and answer questions. This is read and talk. Like, let's talk and get to know each other as readers and about this book. So making reading social. This is one way to do this. Someone asked earlier, how does your new language learner feel in that situation? Does that feel weird? And no, it doesn't, because here's one strategy that can happen. I go over here to Missy. Missy's brand new to the country. Missy, we're going to have a whole class conversation. I'm going to start it by saying I know something that the read aloud is outside of the workshop time. You could add on by saying what? And we're practicing that back and forth. And then when we go over here and whole class conversation it, I start, and guess who comes in? Missy. Instead of Missy, just hang out. Stay over there, just listen. Just keep listening, Missy. Just keep listening, Missy. Just keep listening. Instead, Missy's taking part in that and having that opportunity to talk, okay? So, not only did we complete a whole class conversation, we did complete one complete reader's workshop. The goal of this one, or the purpose of this, was to teach you a way to unpack one unit of study. This can be duplicated each unit, every grade. It can be tweaked, but this is just one way that we choose to do it. I introduced it with a mini lesson. I gave you a long block of time to read and think and talk, and then we shared. So we've completed one whole reader's workshop. We are about ready to take a break, and then we're going to come back and have another reader's workshop, and this one is going to be titled, How Can We, as a PLC, Plan for Next Week of Instruction? So what I've just done is told you, as kids or adults, that you have successfully completed something. Like, you feel like you've completed something, that feels good. You're not going to get a medal. I don't have cake for you. Actually, I have cake. But I don't have money for you or any of that. But I've told you that you've worked hard. And guess what? Tomorrow you're going to come and learn this. So I've just kind of wrapped it up with, good job. Guess what? Our next portion in this learning, or our next piece in this learning, will be this. So we're going to take our break for 5 minutes. And then we will be ready to start to learn how a PLC can plan for their next week of instruction. All right? Thanks. copy of, she borrowed. Okay, I bet she's making copies. If not, can I just borrow yours when I'm on the carpet? And then, I won't, yeah. And then if I don't remember to give it to you, you're gonna say, remember you need it. Okay, thank you. All right, writers and readers, we're ready to get started. When we released for our break, I told you what we were going to do, and that is exactly where we are now. I'm going to call a group to the carpet, and this group, you'll need 3 tools, and your tools will be your unit. You'll need something to write with, a writing tool, whether that's a pen, a pencil, or a marker, or just something to write with, and then maybe a piece of paper or a sticky note. I think that's it's the same tools. Actually, it's the same tools we used before, but notice that I just clearly just repeated it. Like this is what you'll need, this and this and this, and while that seems silly to have to repeat, but it just makes those routines and structures so apparent to kids. Like this is like, how could you come to school today without your draft book or your book? I mean, how could you come to this training without your unit? But it just, here we go. You'll need 3 tools. 1, your book. 2, your writing tool. And 3, you'll need some type of piece of paper. The schools that I'd like to have us join us on the carpet will be Young and Shaw. So I'd love for you to come to the carpet now, please. Thanks. Right, writers and readers. Remember yesterday when we were in Reader's Workshop, we learned how a PLC can unpack a new reading unit of study. But today, I told you that we were going to do some new work, and today we're going to learn how a PLC can plan for the next week of instruction. I've set my timer for 10. Do you mind just kind of giving me a clue when I'm at 10? Thank you. Before I teach you this work, I want to tell you another story. It builds on yesterday's story that I told you about our PLC and how we didn't read the orientation to the unit, and that didn't quite work out so well. This is a similar story. So during that time, every teacher, including me, we would put our unit, our new unit, in our bag. And we took it home at night and we prepared for lesson 1. And then the next day came and we went in our classrooms and we shut the door and we taught lesson 1. And then the next night, or that same day, we put our lesson in, or our unit in our bag, and we read lesson 2. And then we came back to school and we shut our door and taught the lesson. And then day 3 came and we had to call in for subs because we were exhausted and people were falling asleep with their book on their chest, and we were cranky and we were mad, and there was it just wasn't good. It wasn't good for our kids, and it wasn't good for our families, and wasn't good as a PLC member. So we knew we needed to refine the practice. So one of the things we put in place was a protocol for planning for next week of instruction. And I'm going to show you that right now. We put it in place. We saw it really did kind of help things be sustainable. So we could do this work week after week. And then also we were finding that we were doing it faster and faster. And what happens there is now you have more time to plan for this time. This is the conferring and small group work. And this is where we probably need to be spending more of our time than planning for the mini lesson John Hattie reports about knowing your impact, know thy impact. This is not impactful to spend large portion of your time preparing. This is the impactful part. This is the part that actually pushes our readers. And it's the personalization part. So we want time to be able to do this. So this protocol that I'm going to show you has allowed us to have more time to plan for this time, okay? So the protocol you're going to see is teachers. Each teacher is assigned one lesson a week, and they read that lesson, and then they, well, actually they read the connection part, and then they jot what they learned from the connection part and what they're going to teach, and then they read the teaching portion, and then they jot what they learned from the teaching portion and how they're going to teach it, and all the components of that mini lesson. So, you know, by now you probably know that every single lesson typically follows this structure as far as the mini lesson. Always starts with that connection. Teacher names the teaching point. Teacher teaches. Then she lets the kids actively engage, kind of get their feet wet, and then links it to maybe big life, something bigger than just what we're doing here, and then releases kids. So you're going to see a video of our PLC doing this work. Please know, again, just be nice. You know, when I asked them to do the video, they said, yes, we want to help, you know, help others. I didn't have a hair person come in for them. I didn't have a makeup person. They're just, they've taught, and then they ran into my room and did the PLC. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Did the PLC, and then they ran out. So it's not perfect, but they were willing to share, and I told them I would at least explain to y'all, please just be nice. And they're just mid-unit. They're in a unit right now. I don't even know what week when we filmed it. But they're in mid-unit, and you're going to see this process and be thinking while you watch this how this can maybe work for your PLC. So you can construct an overview for just the week. Now, we've just constructed an overview of the whole unit. We're not experts at it, but we kind of could tell kids, you're going to be in book clubs, and we're going to learn how to analyze themes. And now this process right here is going to let you be able to be a little more clear on where the week is going to go. So this is a video that we're going to watch. Writers and readers, I'm glad you're here today. It's Friday, and Friday is typically our day that we plan for next week of instruction, and we know that our goal is plan for next week of instruction, and the purpose for doing this all together is working together to build a shared knowledge is the best way to achieve goals and meet the needs of our students. So we'll do the protocol that we've been practicing this year of learning how to plan for next week of instruction as a PLC and fast. So what I will do is assign one lesson to each person, each member of the PLC. You'll read that lesson for 7 minutes. You'll practice the same skills and strategies that we ask our kids to do. You'll read a chunk. I would probably assume that you're going to read the connection chunk and then jot. Read the teaching point and then jot. Then read the teaching part, think about it, and then jot. Active engagement, you'll read, think, and jot. And then the link, think, and jot. And we, as a PLC, we're pushing ourselves to even go beyond that for this process to kind of think about the mid-workshop point in our small group instruction. So we'll read for 7 minutes, and then we'll actually come to the carpet and teach each other. So each one of you are going to become an expert of a lesson for next week. Are we ready? I'm going to set my timer, and then I'm going to assign. So Sarah, you're going to be lesson 6 for next week. Sandra, you're going to be lesson 7 for next week. Janet, you'll be lesson 8 for next week. Melissa, you'll be lesson 9 for next week. And Kim, you'll be lesson 10 for next week. And we will begin. 10 seconds to finish your last thought or jot. All right, readers and writers, we're going to go ahead and come to the carpet, and we'll start with Monday's lesson, which is number 6, and that will be Sarah.
Okay, students, you have seen multiple different maps in your social studies classes. Well, today I want to talk to you about some of the some older maps. When maps were first being created, when they were first discovering the waters, they would actually place a dragon on the maps where there were trouble spots. So if there were maybe lots of sea creatures there, or if there were hurricanes in that area, or if it was just a part of the water that they hadn't really explored yet, they would put dragons all over this map. And I have a picture for you here to show you. Well, we're actually going to do that, look for those areas of trouble in our fantasy stories. So today I'm going to teach you that in your fantasy stories, your characters often face different kinds of dragons. Some of them are literal, we have dragons in our fantasy stories, but some of them are metaphorical dragons, and they symbolize those problems, those trouble areas that your characters are going to face.
I know that there's something I can learn from HAR-BER. And what I think about HAR-BER is that he's a boy that started off self-centered, and he made a lot of mistakes, but he's trying to undo those into trying to be brave. So what I'm learning is that you can make mistakes, but still pick yourself up to do better. As I'm about to send you off, I want you to choose some life lessons that you're learning from your book. Now, I want you to narrow it to just one, and you're going to need to be ready to explain it to somebody else. So I want you to quickly jot just one idea.
Okay, welcome back, readers. Today I'd like to talk to you about our mini lesson, which is on our fantasy unit, and it's talking about internal quests, knowing that quests can be internal as well as external.
So you have all studied history in different ways. You've studied World War II through Number of the Stars. You've studied the Civil Rights Movement through Ruby Bridges and Martin Luther King Jr. You know about historical characters just like you know about the fantasy characters in the books we're reading now. The fantasy characters in the books we're reading now are magical. They're not real. They don't exist in real life, but we learn the same lessons from them as we learn from historical characters.
Readers, I want you to think about a famous athlete that you know and somebody that's really good at something. And I want you to think about, do you think they just make a lot of money with what they're doing and they just stop doing it? Or do you think they try hard to keep getting better and better and better? That's what we need to do as readers. So today I want to teach you that you shouldn't just wait for somebody else to look at your reading and to help you figure out how to make it better. You should be doing that yourself. You need to constantly be asking, what can I do to be better at this skill? So I want you to watch me as I look at my last night's writing about theme, and I want to compare it to the progression today. And I want you to watch as I kind of go through this to really honestly look at myself to figure out what I need to do better. Oh gosh, ooh, I need to do better on this. I didn't even do this part. Okay, so I think I'm going to be a 4. Okay, so now I need to figure out what my next step is. Okay, yeah, I know exactly what I need to do next, okay? So what I want you to do right now is I want you to pull out the writing that you did last night on your theme. I want you to open it up, and I want you to use the progression that you have in your notebook, and I want you to figure out where you are with this writing.
Are there any tools that need to be prepared before your lessons? Any of the resources? Resources or, yes.
The day of my lesson, there are a list of themes that will need to be printed off, and also you'll need to have a link to there's a historical figures with their dragons and their lessons that they learned that you'll need to be able to project on the meeting board.
Do you think we need a copy per student of the themes? I've already gone 2 minutes over my 10 minutes, and now I've got to ask for another minute, so I'm sorry. I'm working on that. I'm refining my process, all right? Okay, thanks. And you can ask that of the kids. They kind of think that's funny. I mean, have you tried to do that in your room with the timer? You just say, kids, I need a little bit more time. But all the while, I'm sitting here in my head, that means less time for you out there to actually do this work. So I'm mindful of that. So you saw that somebody in the room assigns the lessons. Then each person reads the lesson. And then the PLC members actually teach each other this lesson. So what this is doing is providing that time to actually kind of get an idea of where this week is going to go. Not perfect and not specific little details, but where is Monday? How is Monday's lesson going to build on Tuesday's lesson? And how is Tuesday's going to build? And where do we need to be by Friday? And what's important about Monday and Tuesday's lessons that's going to get us to Friday? So you kind of see how that works. We're going to give it a shot today. When we go back to our tables, somebody maybe is the timekeeper and keeps people in, and actually we're going to read the lessons and then I'll give the next instruction. So when we go back, readers, somebody will assign the lessons that you'll read, and then we'll read for 7 minutes, all right? So, and your tools for this will probably, same tools. You'll need your book and some type of writing tool. Some people like to jot on Post-it notes. Some people like to highlight in the book, whatever seems to work for you, all right? Readers, off you go. Good? Hold on. Battery. It's time. Session 3, and then Scott will be 4. ready to try this work, and I clearly know you probably didn't get through the connection. Let's just say that. And that's perfectly understandable. This process gets faster, but it is fast-paced. Like we learn to just kind of read for that gist and just kind of push through our as best as we can. But I will tell you, her phrases repeat and things get easier, and this process does get faster. But we are about ready to try this work, and you'll see that this 4 minutes will be really neat to be able to experience seeing your co-workers teach. We don't get in each other's classrooms near enough. How you're able to give a little fishbowl into this classroom, you kind of get to see this. This is, you're now getting to fishbowl. You're actually in your classroom now. We're kind of getting to see what gestures you use and how you hold a book, and how do you sit in the chair and kind of present this information to your kids. All the while, we're learning how this next week is going to unfold. So we're going to try it. 4 minutes, I would suggest a timekeeper to kind of keep everybody in check, that we, have 4 minutes to teach, and then trying to keep those clarifying questions till the end for us. But timekeeper, I'm going to give you this job also, because this is a tip that we've learned. Timekeeper, after the first 4 minutes, and now it's Tuesday, and then that person teaches, and if after 4 minutes, and now it's Wednesday, it just kind of pushes it to, like, we got to keep on going. We got to keep pressing on through. So if you're out listening to us, you could turn off your sound for about 20 minutes. Again, I just kind of keep it running so you can see what we're doing and when we start back up. But for the most part, we'll be teaching each other, and I'm sure you will be doing the same. We are trying to get an overview of this week and how one lesson builds on another. Missy's going to start. She's going to teach the first lesson. Then the next person's going to teach the next lesson. The next person's going to teach the lesson. And so hopefully we get to Friday, maybe even Saturday. Just kidding. Okay. All right. So 20 minutes. And timekeepers, you may go ahead and tell and now it's Monday.
This is the first day at the beginning kind of begin by putting on the yoga costume and encouraging them to tell them they have the potential to be awesome, that they are promised, that this year can be life-changing, and they can become extraordinary readers. So it's kind of a big coaching session while you do this. And then you sort of train them reins over to them and tell them they're going to be in charge of their own reading. So we're going to set up some protocols whereby they do that. They start sort of by setting some goals for themselves, making a plan to establish those goals in their own lives, and then a reflection of how that's going to work and how that's working. And now it's Tuesday. That's all I've got.
Okay. So this day we are going to be teaching them the importance of writing down what they're reading. Like she said, kind of talking it out about how important it's going to be for them to write about their reading, and I just sort of in one place, so it's fun. But so what stuck out in my mind, so they're going to be filling in logs and discussing with partners and bringing it to the groups. But it says that they're going to be working probably at least 40 minutes a night on their reading. And so I am curious, I'm going off this thing here to see what happens if they don't come with their reading done and their writing done. So what
remember what happens to the entire group then. So that's going to be a big accountability piece there. Anyway, so just, and then there's just some dialogue about getting them ready for kind of like a mini lesson on how to write about their reading. And then a section to read, and to them, and model the
Writing is about teaching readers who write about their reading are extra. So really it's about modeling what that looks like as they read. So there's a connection. Where they see some example parts of what that looks like. It's good job in how they will annotate their work. And then they will have the teacher will make some suggestions. And suggested readers who write approach to and then she's going to read to them a passage and they are going to about what was significant about that and how it's communicated. I'm supposed to write and crank out an entry that won't go up the level of their reading. Tell them that reading with the intention of writing.
Follow that.
Call in for sub.
Hello, readers. We are going to talk about grounding your thinking in the text that you're reading and carrying it with you as you keep on reading. I know last night you did some writing about what we've read. I'd like you to kind of go through the reading with the writing in front of you. Make notes about where you have grown some ideas. Make good ideas, good places. Just making some insights into that. And of course, we'll move on to the teacher's point, which is, where do ideas live? How do readers come up with ideas? Do they come from the, I guess the thing is, when you get an idea, you should go back and read it. Just think of it as a gold mine where, the evidence is going right there to prove your ideas that you come up with and things. And then it goes into the different points and steps readers can use to develop their ideas. Choosing one idea to develop, and then asking themselves, where is that idea in the text? Locate those passages, reread them with kind of the weakness that we talked about earlier, and then reread it and just use the word, mining it for new insights about the idea, and then you repeat it with another passage that you remember as well.
Thinking about your writing, about reading, and figure out where you can share that. And so that was their assignment. Go home and do something. And it was I missed a couple of pages here.
I apologize. I did a mixture of actually doing it with the Oh, okay.
He's bringing out all five of those things. I caught that today. Yesterday.
So yesterday, oh, yeah, okay, good, that's what I wanted to start down. So can you say, I got the power? Yes, right. Okay, so today, talk about. This is why I guess she they're all cheering on Friday. Okay, so yesterday you guys spent some time working on studying the work that you did on your assessment up against a real. And what we'll do then is using the learning progression to revise the work to make it stronger. So today we're going to make our writing powerful. Say, I got the power. I got the power. Okay, we'll take a bit of yesterday's work that you're really proud of and something that feels like your best work. Now ask yourself, here are the words. Think about yourself. Okay, and which part are we sharing and why? Now, I'm going to show you some post-it notes just as we did with day 2 of our gallery work. So you can annotate your best work and your work. Okay. So after you work your best, you name your teaching point. So today I want to teach you that people read differently. Do you want to say when they write about it, they're reading. Writers see more, notice more, and think more. And everything becomes a twist for their thinking wheel. When you read as a writer, you bring a writerly wide thinkingness and extra awareness to your reading. You notice stuff others would pass right by, and you make something.
Oh, God. Surely not.
That's part of it. Okay. So I bet it does. No, I want to demo. I want to. Oh yeah. So we're going to. I want to talk to you about the way that you're reading different. And then we're going to have a well, whenever. Knowing that afterwards, you're going to do powerful writing about your reading. Catherine Patterson did very wordy. It was asked about right. They can't finish it. She wasn't asked why write about reading, but I think your answer has everything to do with why you're reading about reading. She answered by telling you about how she and her son had just watched the Decatur score play. It's like so. How does it relate? How do we have? What is this the first time writing about questions? It's like in a quadrant. Okay. Oh yeah. I think Catherine Patterson was saying that writing helps people see best and think about small wonders that we might just walk right past, like a cicada perch. And writing helps a person not just pay attention to details, but grow inside. Say grow inside. Grow inside. Okay, so pausing to notice that a cicada bud nudged her to think about the way that grown-ups may fret about unimportant things, providing hidden bracelets and forgetting to teach kids to notice the grandeur of this world is charming. So we're going to work intentionally on writing something that will pay off, not just sometimes. So if what you do is pick up the phone, read, and then get to the end and say, yes, now I will write something, and you pick up your pen and you write an entry, then that writing isn't going to lift your level of reading as a waste. But if you go back and you go, knowing from the start that you're going to have to write about it, paying attention to details, then that's going to lift it, and that change will be as if someone turned on the lights and you're reading. We shared Oh, yeah. You are brave. I mean, I'd forgotten that. I know. That's not yeah. Like, oh, yes.
They love it. It's fine. What you do?
I didn't do anything. I'm a teacher.
Someone like say page 47, you'll see, and it says, today I want to teach you that readers start a book in just a week. So that's the script right there.
So already your writing is thinking about reading to become deeper and more mature. We turn to the work you said last night. Is it your work at night?
Friday's a letter. Is Friday a letter? Dear teachers.
Okay.
It's always
What do
fun
you
to
think
get the
about
letter.
Did you?
It's not scripted, no. She, every so often, she does a letter for you, and what we do in PLCs is here's the mini lesson, right there. And we just kind of make meaning of that, and then conferring and share.
So I distributed some Post-its and colorful markers.
But yeah, you get a letter every so often. A lot of times it's after an assessment.
Okay, so I know you've read your entries.
But it
Now I
is
want
a
you
lesson.
to use your
Like
Post-it
it's,
and
I mean,
think about
think
how
Monday,
you
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, this would be.
So maybe you didn't say something that you didn't get everything that you wanted to, or think about how this would work and your new thinking and what you could have added.
No, I don't know why you would, why don't yours? Why? It must be the teacher that doesn't. First of all, it's what we, I just say, because that's what we do. Oh my goodness. But no, you didn't read, and that's okay, but we're just gonna celebrate the ones who did read the next day, and then we just keep building. But that's the expectation of, I'm not doing this. I'm saying. It's not forward, right? Absolutely not, no. But that's. They need it for their lesson. You will hope that they have read. But absolutely. We will work through it. Absolutely. So yeah, and we will work through that because we've lived that, and,
but then we go
they,
back to
they are
rereading
going to
the,
live that too. They're going to say.
One with the braids.
Right, they're missing their parts. Well, not, we will work through that, but I think the biggest part is your facial is
wanting to be friends, but wondering if it
we
ever
do.
can be. And so
And then the next day, if you're
we
having
want to
trouble
know,
responding,
we want to reread this and figure out if there's even deeper meaning than just how many books.
yesterday,
And it
and
has
I
to
think we're a little bit further while the kids
America and Africa. So
don't even know where the book is. We're
readers
gonna
to see how I
that's
look
my
at the passage
personalization.
through the lens of the eye of tech and how he's torn.
No, it's not just you. Not just you. But we will work through your bag of tricks on how to create that culture. We are readers.
That's what happens when you
That's
ground
what we do. Oh, sorry.
and now you need to do that on your own.
She talked about how to put things on 2 different horses and, you know, I know. Right.
I never liked it like that. It was flawed and there was something. Changing the way we actually.
One more minute.
Oh, even P readers. Take those.
Seconds to finish your thought. All right, writers and readers, we're about ready to wrap this lesson up. What you have just completed, you have received a mini lesson. I taught you how a PLC can plan for their next week of instruction. I gave you time to read and process and actually teach each other. And now we're going to end up with our share right here. And I'm going to do the whole class conversation protocol again. I'll open it up and then we will hopefully add on to what I am saying. Again, I use this prompts for pushing our thinking for kids who need a little bit of help to do that, to actually think longer about a topic. The more we practice and the more they see me turn around and look at that chart as a resource, I'm creating an independent reader and writer and thinker and inquirer. We're working towards independence and engagement. All right, so I have it posted. I'm not mad at you that you didn't use it, but I am showing you that I am using it, and I might even go like this and touch it. But if I have it posted in my room and I haven't touched it or talked about it in over a week, that poster might not be doing what it needs to be doing. These are meant to promote engagement and independence. If I'm not referencing it and truly me using it, because I'm a learner alongside you, then that poster might not need to be up. Just be thinking about that. So you're going to see a whole class conversation and you're going to be a part of it. I'm going to open it up. Knowing that this work today in this particular lesson is we are trying to construct an overview, just 1 week of instruction. How does one lesson build on another lesson? And I'm sure you're going to leave with the big idea that there is not going to be a theme lesson. There won't be a point of view lesson, a one and done. These lessons build on each other. The work, just like our ideas grow, so do these lessons, they grow. So I'm going to start by setting my timer. And we're going to try this again. And again, this is not the only way to do a share at all, but I felt like this might be a good one to practice and get better at today. I'll start. Let me see. I've got several notes. Remember when I released you to take a break, our last lesson, I said, we just completed and now we're going to, and tomorrow we're going to learn this. I would have no way of knowing what tomorrow's lesson is because all I've done is read today's lesson and I have not a clue what tomorrow's day's lesson is. But this work right here, I at least have some inkling of what tomorrow's work is going to be. The teaching point doesn't come quick off my mouth. I don't know exactly what we're going to do, but I do know the teaching point. I remember my friend showing me that we're going to work on strong muscles. So I'm thinking to myself, and tomorrow we're going to work on strong muscles. So you can see where that teaching each other is helping us. We talk about pictures and gestures help our language learners. Pictures and gestures also help us. Those progressions, I've used the pictures sometimes more than the words because I need to understand what does a level 5 look like when you're studying perspective? And I read all those words, but then I have to look at the picture to understand that. So in our PLCs, if you are teaching each other, those gestures you're using, your friends are going to really draw on when they are teaching their lessons to their kids. All right, so I talked really long in the whole class conversation. Does anyone want to add on to what I've said or think of another idea?
Well, this makes me realize, I just want to add on to what you're saying, that the importance of us kind of dividing and conquering the lessons. And as we've talked in our table, somebody in our group had a great idea about even each of us maybe taking responsibility for one lesson to help gather materials for everybody and keep everybody up to, up to snuff on what they're going to need for the week so that we're well prepared.
Absolutely. Nice.
I was just thinking that I even asked Charlene on one of the breaks, okay, so your school has been doing this for 3 years now. Is this something, even though these teachers have taught these lessons multiple times, is this the process that's still going to go on? And she said yes. And so that was kind of a eye-opening thing or something for me to think about, because even though I'm sure they have notes on them all, they've taught them all, it was a way for them to kind of refresh their memory, kind of, like you said, have it in your mind for the week going, that you're going into, and that this unpacking process and this planning process would be something that would be ongoing.
Through the refinement process, implementation, absolutely, but through the refinement, absolutely. These lessons are that deep that it requires multiple entry points at learning about this type of teaching. I was surprised that nobody asked about writing about reading. At Sonora, we call it WAR, writing about reading. In our school, we use draft books, and there is writing about reading all of the time. This is making your thinking visible. If there's no writing about reading going on, I have no idea what is going on in your thinking. So what does writing about reading look like? In your resources, you're going to often have student work that is probably not, it does not look like your student work, but you'll say, and I'm not going to tell you to lie, but I am going to tell you, we just say, oh, this was my student last year. Or in middle school, we say, this is my student in the last block. But really, you're like, oh, if I can just get one kid to write like that, that would be awesome. So you're going to look at this student work as a PLC and really like annotate what's happening, what is the student doing, but then you're also going to give it to your kids and for them to have a mentor text or something to look at and aspire to. Okay. Ooh, sorry. We successfully completed a whole class conversation trying to construct an overview of this particular week of instruction. We have successfully completed another reading workshop. We had a mini lesson, we had a long block, and then we had a share time. Do I think that we're experts, and in the next few weeks when we teach this, is it going to go perfect? No, but we are going to lean on each other. Just like we were talking here, if you're an expert at that lesson, you're going to find that person in the hall and say, can you tell me again what that part of that lesson means? But that person's the expert of that lesson, and that person's the expert at that person. Leaning on each other. This work is not for the weak at heart. You'll need to have collaborative cultures built and continue to build those, because this work requires us to learn from each other. So with that said, we're going to take another break, and then when we come back, we'll have a panel discussion. There are 2 schools in our district who are just a little bit deeper in this, like their feet are wet. They've been implementing this work. They're going to be on a panel for us. You are welcome to, and we encourage the questions to ask them about this process and maybe specific questions about, how do you carry the bags to, how do you carry books from home and school, or just big picture questions. So that panel, when we come back from our break, we will get to participate in a panel or get to listen in to a panel discussion. So we'll take a 7-minute break, and then we will be back and ready to be learners. All right, thanks.
You don't need anything. No, I don't have any extras. It's all good. Oops, sorry. Megan, do you want to keep all these post-it? I've saved them all. I don't know. Was that from like Tuesday? Yeah. Yeah, I may send her what I have. Yeah. ready? Come on, Lisa. Y'all ready? Come on up. Are y'all ready? I guess I probably shouldn't ask her. No, you don't need anything. Y'all can move closer. Y'all want to
Come on, pull it.
I claimed this chair from the beginning.
Feel much better about this.
Come on, Lisa.
I think we should make all the legs one way.
Okay, our timer just went off, so we're ready to get started back. I'd like to welcome everybody back to our panel of Shaw and Sonora teachers. And since they have been implementing their reading units of study for several months now, they have a lot of advice and tips that they can give us, and maybe some things that they have worked through that we all need to be aware of since we are starting Unit 1 in May. So why don't we just go ahead and let you share the mic and share with us some things you've learned or things that we should know, and then we'll open up to some questions from those of you here in the room. And then those of you who have questions at the school site, you're more than welcome to ask questions, and you can send them to Megan, and then she'll run them to me or pass them to me somehow. Okay, I'll turn the mic on. Anybody want to start?
Well, let's see. We've been doing it for a few months, and my class is getting ready to start on Unit 4. So we've done the first 3 units, or most of the first 3 units, because we're trying to make sure we can get a little bit of everything. And I think they're great. We've had a lot of success. I had lots of parents at parent-teacher conference who even said things like, my kid is reading more at home, they're talking more about what they're reading to me, and they notice without me even having to prompt about what they're reading and talking and sharing more.
I'll just add in from a teacher and parent perspective, because I have 2 children, a first grader and a third grader, that are also doing the units of study, that I've just seen a huge amount of growth in them. Like, they want to read more at home. It's not okay, let's do your 20 minutes. No, it's like they want to read. My first grader, she is just blowing me away at how much she is analyzing text as a first grader. And even though my older child is an above level reader, just seeing the difference in their first grade experience, it's been pretty amazing just to see the more complex levels that she's talking about text than my older daughter did when she was that age.
I think one of the things that's been nice is there's a lot of student choice in books, or whether it's articles and argument, but that's allowed us, for the kids that are on the lowest level all the way up to the kids that are on the highest level, to all be pushed along and not just, that middle ground. So I feel like that's been really evident. And then too, just the depth in the lessons is huge. I know you wanted to talk about that maybe a little bit, Lisa, but it's taking the kids to a level that none of us have really thought about before. So,
And your kids are obviously improving and moving through the levels. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you, are you doing running records, or how are you moving the children up through the levels of complexity?
did you want me to answer that question?
Okay. It's open to the
You want
panel.
to speak to that? So we do the BAS assessment. We've done it twice, the first quarter and the third quarter, and we could see their growth. But just the level of questioning that we question the students with, the symbolism, the metaphorical thinking, and those kind of things is such a higher level than what we've ever done before. I've said, oh, a kid's on a Z or a level 60. And whenever you have the conversations with some of the Lucy questions or her assessments that she provides, the level Zs are not getting it at the level of a fifth grader. And so, but they could read fluently and they could answer our comprehension questions. But it would, some of the tasks that they give them is something I think that we would have done in high school when we're analyzing poetry or text. And so I just think that we are really bringing up the rigor like we've never before done that, because the questions really push their thinking compared to where we thought we were rigorous. Now we really, it's really rigorous.
So when you said just a second ago that
Oh, hold on just a second. Can we pass the mic to you, because they can't hear us? Oh, that's okay. We just have to re-ask.
So I just wanted to clarify from your first comment about kids being on a Z, and you were asking questions but they couldn't answer unless it was like an R level text. Is that prior to what you've been doing, or are you talking about kids currently? Does that make sense? Yes. Okay.
So on the BAS assessment, whenever you go to a level Z, on the back page, whenever you're in that really in-depth part, you know, that's just one question. And so they can pass a level Z and not hit that one question, you know. But then whenever you're doing some of your basic pre-assessments with the Lucy's reading series, they don't even understand the terminology that she's using. That's the baseline test for fifth grade, our fifth grade unit. And so, but you've been telling them, oh, you're a level Z reader. But then you can't do the symbolism and stuff that she expects for, you know, the average fifth grader to pass. So.
So I'm a little bit unique. I'm not a fifth grade teacher. I'm the resource teacher, but I co-teach in fifth grade. But I will say that I have never had students ask me to go get their book before this has happened and say, can we please just have 10 more minutes? And can we please just get a little bit more reading done? And parents emailing me or meeting with me at IEP conferences and saying, my kid is reading at home. And they're understanding the book, and they're asking different questions, and they're deeper thinking. And so I think it's a great program for kids that are high-level achievers, but also I think some teachers might worry about the rigor with their low-level achieving kids, but they will rise to the occasion if it's asked of them. But we have never asked those questions before. And so I think that's what's been so awesome about this program.
Since we're talking about our students that have struggles, how do you work with those students that either don't know how to spell or can't write a complete sentence and really struggle at the lowest level, you know, the A, B level, and ask them to communicate, knowing that, you know, looking at this first unit today, one of the things is writing about the reading. So how have you adjusted that for those students?
So I do a lot of modifying, and I will sit with a group and have them, or a kid individually, and have them tell me what they want to write, and then we'll write it together, and then I'll show them how we wrote. But I have a student that hates writing, and and he's not good at it. But
he's really good at telling me about the book and answering those questions, and I'll write it in his journal for him, and I'll say, look at how analytical you got just from talking about it. But I kind of have taken that writing part off because that's too much. So
I think I'll just reiterate a little bit because we're in the same classroom. I think the conversation, that share component that we have in every lesson, I think that supports them so much. Just like stretching, growing our thinking and talking it through and rehearsing it verbally, it really supports them too.
Also, I feel like that's where your small group conferring kind of comes in. So while they're independent reading or meeting with their book clubs, you're still pulling back small groups, and that can be like a strategy group or whatever it is that you need it to be so that you can meet those specific needs of those kids.
I'll just kind of add to that. I was discussing at our table a little while ago about a student who is a resource student but also a second language learner, and he really struggles with his reading and writing. But since we've started these units, I have seen him participate more than he had ever before. I feel like just the not having so long of the direct instruction and having that more time to be able to pull back students for specific skills or to have that time with him one-on-one that I may not have had in the other model, and also the share time. But I feel like I see him sometimes when we come back to the share time or the active engagement, and he's looking through that notebook, and it's providing him scaffolds to be able to participate in those conversations and to be able to raise his hand and say, oh, I know what I want to add to this, much more than it was before. So, and I'll just to piggyback on what they said, I've seen it just work across all level, increasing the rigor across all levels, but also providing the scaffolding that some students needed with more discussion and more share time.
I think too, we have our lower level kids, but then we also have that group of kids that are not motivated. And I have a handful of those kids, as I'm sure we all do, but because she gives that time for them to read, I have had a couple of kids in particular that, she also tells them, you can read, if this is a book on your level, you can read X amount of pages in this amount of time. And so they're recording that and they're seeing that, which has caused them to stick with a book. And I've had a couple of kids make the comment, once they reach a certain point, oh, I actually like this book. So it's forcing them to stick with something long enough to actually get into the text and really actually enjoy what they're reading as they're working. So,
well, and when my group finished up the first unit, and we were finishing our book clubs and we're supposed to be going on to nonfiction, my book clubs were really sad. And I emailed Charlene and I said, this is breaking their heart. They don't want to stop. And she said, well, and so I've worked in my schedule so I can have like a little 15-minute optional book club time so that my kids that wanted to continue those discussions and wanted to keep working and meeting with other people that are reading that like book, they're so thankful for it, and they're constantly asking me for, okay, so now we're ready for our next book. Can you give us our next book now? And it's now gotten to the point where they actually go to the cabinet and they go, okay, let's do this one now. And they choose for themselves. I don't even have to do anything. They're so much more motivated to do it themselves than they've ever been before this.
Other questions? Go ahead.
So you asked what was our biggest kind of surprise when we started this, and one of the things was when we got to the argumentative text, we needed different book sets, and we were not prepared for that at the time when we first started. And so looking ahead to know what you're going to need, because we needed 6 to 10 books on a topic, and so that was kind of a shocker whenever you pulled it out the week before and thought, oh, I've got to get some books. And so just kind of being prepared for some of those, Unit 4, you needed sets of fantasy for your book clubs on different levels, and section Unit 2, or was it 3, on the argumentative text, you need a whole bunch of books on sharks or books on whales or books on zoos, enough for a variety of levels with those books.
So did you all have enough of those? in your classroom libraries? Did you pull from your classroom libraries and the media center, and then have you ordered additional?
We pulled from the library, but when all 4 classes are doing those at
Right.
the same time, and then she had a lot of articles, but just having those texts, and then like we talked about, reading to know what the whole unit is about, to see the end goal. So when we got to bin 2 or 3, they wanted us to use even more rigorous text. So if we had put those in at the beginning, they were already using that. So it's just really important to see where you're starting to where you're ending, and what materials you need and when to introduce those. It was a big aha to us.
Good.
I'm just gonna drop it.
But to answer that question about where we found text, so like that ended up being my job, was to go and find text, it seemed like. So we used people in the building, we used other classroom libraries, our classroom libraries, bookstore. The librarian looked and pulled things from her current sets of books that she has, what else was already available, and then started making a list of, here's what I'm going to try to get for next year, and here's what I need to kind of start planning for budget-wise for what we're going to look for in the future. But also, like, there all the articles that Unit 3 needs for the argument. It's a lot of paper. It's a lot of copying, and Charlene and I talked, because my first thought was, oh, I'll just use Google Classroom and then they can like access it all. There are articles and things that will pull up that you're like, oh my, I don't even want this on my computer here at school right now. I think I need to close this. Ads and comments and other just things that, because they're, you know, New York Times publication, they're not for kids necessarily, but the information in the article is important for them. So you want them to have it, but you have to, yes, a lot of copy and paste.
And that would be great to do on our Google Drive or our Google Doc, is to share. That would be a great thing if somebody would go and we put those articles in our Google Doc, so that, you know, we didn't all have to do the work. I know that Ms. Hartness is making a PowerPoint that says like the teaching point for the day, and then the video links within that. And so those are resources hopefully that we can share throughout the district, and that it will make our jobs easier.
I'm just going to reiterate what she said. I think we did talk about doing a PowerPoint, and just to save on time, because we were spending so much time just trying to get everything together and wall space and things like that. So putting all those things on a Promethean presentation is helpful. I know we also did the magnetic rings with the anchor charts for that day, and then just flip them over, and just, you know, another way to save on space and time. So.
I've shared videos and things on Google Classroom for the kids, so they can
Would you say that again, please?
just to reiterate, you were talking about with the PowerPoints for our purposes, and then I've shared those things on the Google Classroom, and the kids have constant access to it. So they can access it at home, they can access it at school, and you say, okay, bring up that power slide, go through the teaching point again, or whatever, however it would sound or look. But did you want to add to that?
I guess it just kind of goes on to what you were saying about adding about the magnetic chart and just filling it. We have curtain rods, and then you just flip over the curtain rod, and so you can have it hanging on your wall, and then to kind of save space for like the board where you can write. So just another idea. Good idea.
There's a lot of posters with a lot of anchor charts.
Well, I think that's what I was going to say, that nothing goes away. I think that was another surprise thing that we were like, oh, I think I filed that, you know, that poster or whatever, and it all comes back. And the articles that we used for our unit, we used it multiple times, not just one time. We've used them over and over and over, and kids go back, and especially, you know, going through that process of debating and other, you know, just lifting those levels, as Lucy says. So they go back to those things over and over. So it's good to hang on to them and make them cute, I guess.
We're all about cute. With rigor. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments?
since you guys have kind of had the opportunity to try this on for size, do you have any other logistical suggestions, things that you've learned that you wish you would have known when you started that would have made this a much simpler transition that you can share with us so that we can not start at square one?
What else you tell about not coming up with your own
Okay, well, I will say that I did, we had an issue, we were supposed to write and debate about chocolate milk in schools. I'll just give you the example. And so I had already kind of touched base with that through my writing project work, and so I did it earlier in the year. So I thought, oh, I'm going to try a different prompt, and not realizing where I was going all the way through that it was going to be like 6 weeks of chocolate milk debating. And so I got flagged a couple times on, just our research, just not having, I looked at the things ahead of time, but nonetheless, you might want to just really think about that when you switch from your prompts or anything on your own. You might want to just try it out first, what Lucy suggests, and then maybe make your modifications after you've had some time with it.
So she gives a lot of stories too within the lessons, and so knowing where she's going with her story, because you want it to sound like yours instead of something you're just reading from the book. And so just really knowing where she's going with all of her stories and just kind of trusting it, but then making it yours is also really important.
Yeah, I think we talked about this at our meeting on Monday, like our staff meeting. And a teacher was saying that Lucy told a story about sailing. I think it was first grade. And she was like, my kids will never believe that I went sailing. I'm scared to death of the water, and they know that. So she went through the story and figured out what kind of was the point, but made it then about her and what she was going to do in her adventure.
So the organizational piece, I don't know if you're thinking about that at all, but I do. And so one of the things, I don't remember which book it is, the green one, whatever that one's called, but when you're doing the conferencing and all that, she says usually you try like 4 or 5 times before you find something that works for you. I haven't found something I completely love yet, but just knowing to give yourself grace in that has been helpful. So she gives some different ideas about how to track that, and I'm not sure if we're all using the same thing, but we have a form that just has, a place for what they need to work on and what you've noticed, and so you can just jot those notes down as you're meeting with kids in conferences. She does provide, like in the lessons, she'll provide different ways to track that, so you might look into that. She doesn't give it to you, but you'd have to create what she's provided. Also, she talks about when they come to the carpet, we've had in this past couple of times like readers workshop spots. I don't know if that was in her unit or not, but it's been helpful either way, so that whoever their person is that they're partnered with and doing their work with, that they can turn and talk to them really easily. And that's, sounds simple, but we didn't do it at first. So so those are just some logistics things that help. And then like the PowerPoint thing, it actually wasn't me, my intern created it, but more for our comfort than for the kids, so that your book's not right there the entire time. It's nice to just have those things ready to go. So.
Well, and I did it a little bit different. I didn't do a PowerPoint. I have just a Google Doc that I have those parts that need to go in there. So like I have a little section at the top that kind of just, here's the overview of what's going to happen. And then here are the supplies I need, and then the connection, the teaching point, the teach and active engagement, and then the link. And then some of the other pieces like the share and the small group and conferring, I put little notes for myself. So mine is all on one Google Doc because I don't want the book sitting in my lap. I have enough other stuff between like the sticky notes for the anchor charts and the poster I'm going to put up during the link and all this other stuff. So it's just too much. So I just needed like a page or two. So that was my organizational strategy. Oh, and also like in the guide, she has like the read aloud before the lesson and during the lesson. So for like Home of the Brave, I made it one of the big sticky notes, and I just put like session 4. These are the pages I need to read. Session 5. These are the pages I'm going to read. There's no read aloud for session 6. So then session 7, so that I could kind of keep up with it, but I could find it in one quick place at a glance.
And are they always from beginning to end read alouds usually, or is it just parts of the book?
No, it's the whole book.
Okay.
And you might go back, like you might be on page 54 for the read aloud, but then you might go back to page 16 during the lesson, but you've already read it several sessions back, but you'll refer back to it.
This may not seem like a big thing, but as my students were increasing their reading volume, and in 5th grade, you're working mostly there, in thicker chapter books. You don't have to think about it quite the same way as the younger grades do about the amount of books they have access to. So we're kind of used to they have their book. The book shopping isn't as much of a thing. But what I was noticing as the volume increased, and since we did start mid-year, the process that I had for them to go to the classroom library wasn't working quite as well in the new system. So that's just something to think about, definitely, even as 5th graders, having that schedule for book shopping when they knew they could go to the class library, because when you're in that workshop time, you don't want them all over at the library trying to find a book. And so that's kind of a simple thing, but that's something that kind of stuck out to me, that, okay, I need to go back when we get started next year to having more of that schedule of book shopping, them referring to the charts, okay, how many should I have available for the week, and kind of making sure all those systems are going at the beginning of the year.
So how often do you let them book shop?
Well, like I said, I don't know that I would use this year as an example. It's kind of it's kind of more like they come to tell me, okay, I need it, and I'll find them a time, to go and find the books and talk about. So that's what, like right now, I'm still kind of working with that, because I just noticed that what worked before, I didn't have a big crowd, it was more like, oh, I got a new library book, or, oh, I'm going to go get one. And that's a good problem, because they're finishing books quicker, and they're, not, I don't see them abandoning as much either.
Okay, we have about 1 more minute. We need to move on. That's okay.
One of the things that I really didn't understand was like levels Y, Z, and the higher levels, the more complex like the themes are. So like in one of the lessons we're talking about themes, well, I didn't really understand that if you had a Y or a Z, how many different themes or plots you could have throughout a book. And so when I levelized my entire library, I was like, wow, this is only a T or something. So they couldn't find what I was asking in their Just Right book. And so just being aware of the books and the levels has been an eye-opener for me as a teacher.
So can they go to T's then? Is that okay, so that they can grapple with those themes, or?
They like to have the multiple plots and the themes, like maybe I was asking a student to find something in their book and they couldn't find it. So that was just.
Okay, I think we have one more question before we go on. What do you use for your reader's notebook, and how do you organize it?
I'll just start. We just use a regular reader, just a regular composition notebook, but I will tell you mine is a mess. Because it's a messy process. Like our debating unit, they went back and forth and wrote more and more. And so somebody probably can answer the organizational, but just be prepared. It's a little messy, but they're doing really good work. So they're going back and reusing it a lot. So I don't know if you guys have another.
Well, we have 2 in my classroom, one that gets to go home with them and one that stays in the classroom, but it's really a binder, and we keep each unit in the binder as we get to the next unit. I say we keep it like as if it was every year, but I know we just started this year. But as we go to the next unit, we add that unit, but we have a section for book club and a section for just writing about our reading. And that's where they keep their writing, and they get to go back and forth, ma'am.
Loose leaf paper then?
Yes, yes.
Okay, the question was loose leaf paper in case the schools didn't.
And
have
after I saw that
their
Christy
binder.
was doing that, and we were in the mid-year, and I was going to go buy more composition notebooks, but money was kind of a thing in the middle, and I already had all these binders, I decided to take her idea. And that's worked really well, because all these articles y'all talked about that you referred to over and over again, they could just put them in the binder. Or anything you gave them as like a mini anchor chart of something you were putting on the wall, they could put it in the binder. So I don't know what the official answer on that is, Charlene. But for us, and using the supplies we had available in year 1, the binders, then if they ran out of paper, you just add to it. But I copied her idea.
And it was kind of huge about how she wanted us to track how much they were reading. Like the stamina. I don't remember. Like taking the pages that you're reading at the beginning to the end and like calculating those up and stuff. I don't think I've ever kept track like that before with the notebooks and writing it down.
Okay. Thank you all so much for sharing your tips and your advice. We really appreciate it. Okay, we'll take a minute or so to transition to our next phase of the training. Thank you, guys. Great advice. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to talk about a getting started guide. We have put together a few things that we think might be helpful. We've tried to anticipate what you might need to get started. This is the second to last slide on Charlene's presentation. And the first thing we want to talk about is our implementation schedule. We are in April right now doing what we planned, a half-day training. As soon as testing is over, it is expected that every grade level will try Unit 1 rollout. And your TOSAs are here to support you. If you need us, please call us or email, and we can come help you in any way that you would like. We have some summer PD planned, June 19, 20, and 21st. We're calling this structured planning time. And you may come for all 3 days, you may come for 1 day, you may come for 2 days, whatever you want. You don't have to sign up, just show up here in room 100, and most of the day will be about you planning. You can come by yourself, you can come with your team. We will talk a little bit during the day about issues you've had during the rollout. And Charlene has agreed to do little mini workshops, like 10 to 20-minute workshops on different topics. So you may choose to go listen to her for a little bit and come back to your planning, or however, the day is for you to plan. The TOSAs and Charlene will be here to support you, to answer questions, to guide you to the resource you need. So this is a day for you to work. And if your principals choose, they can give you flex hours for this. So we hope we see you, and there may be prizes. In August, on that back to school week, you'll have a day of PD. We're not sure of the content yet. We're going to wait till we get feedback from your rollout, and then the TOSAs are going to be able to go at the end of June to Columbia University to train at the Teachers College. So when we get that information and your feedback, then we'll plan what the content is for that. 2017-2018 school year, it is expected that you all will do the reading units of study, and that you will follow the district curriculum calendar, and I'll share that with you in a minute. There will be continued PD on those designated PD days. Some days are half, some are full. But so we're going to have continuous PD throughout the year to support you. And your TOSAs will be available throughout the year. We can come to PLCs, we can come to faculty meetings, we can come before school, after school. We can do a book study group with you. We can co-teach, we can coach, go do a coaching cycle. Anything that you want, we can do for you and help you. If you just want to call us and vent, you can do that. Email, call. You'll need to invite us in and let us know what you want, but we want to be there for you. We're trying to keep a couple steps ahead so we can anticipate your needs. So no, you're not alone. Curriculum calendar. So we've kind of laid out a timeline for how during the times that the unit should be taught. We're going to do units 1, 2, 3, 4 consecutively. We are not going to use the if-then curriculum until the very end of the year. And the reason why is we want you to know these units really well before you start trying to implement on your own, because those if-then curriculum need a little bit of fleshing out on your part. Okay, so that's our expectation. We have a schedule. We have heavily padded the schedule. So Lucy recommends these units are 4 to 6 weeks. I think we're giving you an average of 7 weeks, because we know when you're learning something new, it's going to take a while. It may take you double the time to do things, besides the fact that there's assemblies and field trips and all that stuff. And also, you want to make sure that those structures and routines of the workshop are really well taught and learned. It's not going to work unless you have good classroom management and you have those good structures and routines in place. And that will take a while to get implemented. But just think, in a couple years after when your kids come to you in 5th grade, they will have been through the workshop model several years, so it'll take less and less time. There are some required assessments. The district expects that you'll do the BAS or the DRA at the beginning of the year and the end of the year. Your building may have additional expectations. It is expected that you will do the pre-assessment and post-assessments that Lucy recommends, and I've linked those in here. We are not implementing the Calkins writing units yet, so you can continue to use the Springdale units as a resource if you wish. And they pretty much mirror the same. We used her a lot to guide the sequence we put those lessons in, so they should match up with your reading units. I'm going to add in a literary essay unit, and you do have that at the end of this year, but it's not very good. So I'm going to beef it up a little bit, and I'm still deciding. I may have you guys do the 4th grade literary essay unit because they haven't had this in-depth literary essay writing before. So this year they may need the 4th one, and the next year they can go on and do the 5th one. I'm still playing around with that. So that will be coming. There's also a 5-week unit on testing as a genre, so you can get prepared for the ACT. And that writing unit, I think you guys have been doing already with the ACT Aspire style writing. So when you get to this testing as a genre, there's going to be some resources for you. Every school is getting these 2 copies of these books, the reading strategies books and the writing strategy book. These are written by a staff developer at Teachers College, so they go very, very nicely with the units. So here are all your additional mini lessons that you need if you feel that your students need them. So you can use that during your testing as a genre. Would you click on the ACT Aspire alignment info? I know a lot of you have seen this alignment document where you have the ACT Aspire skills, the Arkansas standards, where you can find the lessons in the Springdale units, and then we've also added where you can find the lessons in the Calkins units. So when it comes time for testing and you realize my kids need way more work in main idea, you can pull from these Springdale units or you can pull from the Calkins units to help you during that 5-week testing as a genre. Structures and routines. Chapter 6 in your green book is all about management and structures and routines. I've tried to condense it down into a 1-pager. So these are the things you're going to need to think about as you get prepared for a mini lesson. Do you have assigned partners? Do you have assigned spots in the meeting area? Do you have a transition signal? Do teachers and students know the exact materials they're going to need for that day? During independent reading, where do they read? What's their instructional goal for their reading today? This is kind of like a checklist for you to make sure you have everything you need to make the workshop go well. If you don't have this in place, this is not going to work. Students have to know how to get help. You have to be freed up to do conferring and your small group work, and your kids have to know what they're supposed to be doing while you're doing those other things. Lesson planning tools. Teachers have asked us for a lesson plan format. We played around with this one. We have each component of the workshop and some specific things you need to know. This may be helpful to you. You can make a copy of it and change it around and use it as you wish if you would like. And then this next one, it's the same information, it's just in a different direction. Some teachers would like that better. It's up to you whether you want to use that or not. Correlation chart for leveling libraries. You may have seen this. We worked long and hard on getting a correlation chart together. I'm sure you're all aware there's lots of correlation charts out there. We try to use the most sound ones we could find. I wish we had that picture of when we had all that paper in our office. It was kind of a head-banging experience. But this is what we're going to use as a district. This is what we're going with. Because students read in bands, for example, if your kid is an S, they don't just read S books. They can read in the RST band. Okay, so that kind of takes care of the problems with the correlation. Because they can read in a band, that should take care of that. And I want to caution us to not be crazy about the level. If your kid wants to read a book outside of their level, let them read outside. Let them, if most of the books they have are on their level, let them read outside of their level. You may want to think about if you have a kid that's always wanting to read outside their level. For example, if they're always wanting to read a higher book, is it because they want to read the hot new title that everybody's talking about? Well, maybe you need to book talk some books that have similar themes and topics to that hot new book so that they feel like they have a choice. For example, a lot of kids are attracted to the topic in the Harry Potter books, but that book isn't accessible to a lot of kids. But the Charlie Bone series is, and it's kind of similar. So knowing books and knowing that to guide those readers that way may help you. But if they're passionate about reading it, let them read it. I feel very, very uncomfortable telling a kid that they can't read a book. And the same thing if they want to read lower. I mean, maybe all their friends are reading that book and they want to read it too. I think that's okay. If it's a continuous problem with that kid wanting to read lower than their level, then maybe you need to think about calibrating your running record or your BAS or DRA. Maybe you're not getting their level right. So those are things to consider. But let's not be really legalistic about these levels. Let's use our teacher heart to make these decisions. We put in a student book shopping guide. If you want to print this off for kids, I made 2 on this page so you could cut it in half and have half sheets that they could put in their notebook if they wanted to. Book baggie magic numbers. This probably isn't going to be as big a problem for 5th grade because they don't need as many books. But if you have a low-level reader, this is the number of books they need per week. Now, I know that you may not have a lot of books right now. We're in a process of building these libraries. So if you don't have this exact number, that's okay. It's not the end of the world. Just make it work. Make it work. Characteristics of text level bands. This is going to become very important as our readers move through the bands. And eventually you'll probably have most of this, especially the bands that your kids read mostly. You'll have it memorized, but here's a cheat sheet for you. This is important to know, like, should I do a guided reading group or should I just do a strategy lesson? So if I know that starting in the M, in the N band, the characters are more ambivalent. They're not black and white good, black and white bad. That may be something that I need to address in a guided reading group when they're on the cusp of getting into that. So these are important as you move your kids through the bands to know, but here's a cheat sheet until you know it by heart. Independent reading level, there are many documents that will say about reading levels and what is independent reading. Some documents say if they're reading at 94% accuracy, that's independent. Some say 98%, some say 96%. It will drive you batty looking at all those documents. This is a guideline. This is what we're going with as a district. It's based on the Bass and Fountas and Pinnell. But again, let's not be cuckoo about it. If they're at 94%, and you feel like that's an independent level for them because you know that kid and you're their teacher, let it go and let them read that level. Okay, this is a big question. Are we still doing guided reading? I would really suggest that you and your team do a deep dive into chapters 7, 8, and 9 of the Green Book. It very explicitly lays out how to conference, how to coach, how to do small group instruction with your students. And the answer to this question, are we still doing guided reading, is yes. Maybe we are, depending on your kids. But it's not the only tool in our tool belt. Some kids may not need guided reading. At our level, at 5th grade level, most of the kids who need guided reading will be kids who are on the cusp of moving into a new band, and that heavily scaffolded guided reading will be great for them. Some kids may not need that guided reading. They may just need a quick strategy lesson. So as a teacher, you're going to make that decision. Guided reading and small group instruction happens during the independent reading time of the workshop. Having said that, you guys have invested a lot of time and energy in learning how to do guided reading and guided reading books. So maybe this year you're still going to continue with your guided reading groups, but you're going to experiment with the small group instruction that Lucy talks about in the Green Book. And so continue with that and try a few other ways this year to add to your repertoire of small group instruction. Okay, any questions about guided reading? That seems to, maybe not in 5th grade, but lower grades, that's a big question that everybody has. Okay. We put in a little troubleshooting guide, so if you're seeing these problems, these are some ways you can possibly fix those problems. We don't need to look at alignment documents, we already did. You're starting with Unit 1. Unit 1 talks about this year 5th graders are going to be this. This year 5th graders are going to do this. So we have created some alternate verbiage you could use, and the basic premise is you are almost finished with 5th grade. Next year you're going to middle school. This is what the reading life looks like of middle schoolers. And we're going to start practicing that middle school reading life now. So just gives a little bit different slant to these Unit 1. A lot of our feedback that we got this week asked for videos. I've linked some classroom videos from Teachers College. Megan has some kindergarten videos on here, but it's okay that they're kindergarten. You can still see the architecture of the workshop. This is the great thing. The architecture of the workshop is the same. It's the same. It's simple and predictable. So any of these videos would be useful for you to watch. And my time is up super fast. Thank you. You guys have been a great audience. We're going to listen. Oh, one last thing before you leave today. If you could complete this feedback form, we would really appreciate it. And I'm going to hand off to Charlene. And please don't hesitate to contact us if you need help. We're here for you.
Thank you, Linda. So we are about ready to embark on this journey, and we're going to do this together in May. One of the things I did want to point out to you that we're going to actually close this achievement gap that we have currently by reading. It sounds very simple, doesn't it? But we are going to close that gap by providing more opportunities for kids to read and hear and interact with text. So let's, when we go to do this, we will know that we are doing this, closing this achievement gap by actually reading. So thank you and happy Easter. Thanks.
And let me thank you and to all of you out there in TV land. I do want to thank you. This has been, and you've worked really hard on a Friday afternoon, and yet you didn't seem to even give up at all. You didn't show that you were tired. You've been working really hard and learning. So thank you very, very much. I appreciate that. I am so looking forward to the test being over on all kinds of levels, but also so I can come and watch you in your classrooms as you roll this out. That's pretty exciting to think about that. So we are right here. The weekend is just a few minutes away. So I'm going to leave you with a quote. I know you'll find it I know you'll find it amazing, but it's a quote from Lucy. The research on reading achievement is unequivocal and long-standing, and it shows clearly that reading is everything. Children's reading engagement, including the amount and variety of what they read, is directly linked not just to reading achievement, but also to overall academic achievement. So what Charlene just said about closing the achievement gap by reading, we will. And to think about, this has always sounded so just silly, but profound. Did you know that the more kids read, the better readers they become? So we are going to become a community of readers. And we are going to be known that Springdale reads. And you guys are going to do it. So thank you. Happy Easter.
She's depleted. PowerPoint.